Hi, everyone, and a very warm welcome to everybody, particularly our author for today. I am Meenakshi Sharma, and I am in conversation with our author, Hema Myer Sood. Hi, Hema, how are you doing?
Hello, Meenakshi. I'm very well, thank you.
So, a quick introduction about our author. Hema Myer Sood released her first book, The Eternal Ocean of Brahma, at the age of 29, and that's amazing. The pristine beaches, the frolicking waves of the ocean revealed enlightening insights into the divine colloquy, the Bhagavad Gita. The revised edition is titled The Oceanic Geeta, and her Karmic City trilogy series is a portrayal of a group of people whose lives are transformed by their encounters with the soul. The trilogy is interspersed with poetry and mystical wisdom and propagates different levels of consciousness. Hema's upcoming book will be her ninth one. Congratulations for that, Hema. And it's called Tijara's Mystery Codes. The thrilling narrative is uniquely interwoven with clairvoyance and telepathy. Set in the majestic Tijara Fort Palace in Rajasthan, the plot follows three timelines and is linked by the dark secret of the Amrit. The page turner unfolds a suspense laden plot involving a cursed mystical Amrita, murder, deception, missing decoded files, illicit affairs, and palace intrigue. So we can see Hema has a very, very broad repertoire of writing. And today we are here together to talk about her book, The Oceanic Geeta. So we're all set to get started, Hema. So we'll be talking about your book today. And when I read the book, what particularly fascinated me was the way in which you have beautifully interwoven the whole concept of Bhagavad Gita, the lessons and learning, along with the sea, the ocean, the majestic sea. So can I start with the question which is uppermost on my mind? What and who was the inspiration for the Oceanic Geeta?
Thank you, Meenakshi, for the wonderful introduction and for sharing your personal insights on the Oceanic Geeta. I have observed that in my life, a few unusual situations have occurred and compelled me in a certain direction, which I may not have chosen otherwise. And thus, I would like to state that inspiration and diverse ideas have cascaded into my mind like a swiftly flowing river of imagination and created thought-provoking comparative situations when I went for that early morning walk to the beach. These were amazing moments of pure creativity, and I enjoyed putting pen to paper and jotting them down. Sometimes when I write, it's interesting to note that occasionally an unexpected word gets included, and later, when I look up its meaning, it's an absolute perfect fit and always better than the syllable that I intended to use. And so when I went for that early morning walk to the beach, I thought it would just be another walk. And I have enjoyed going to the beach since childhood. I never imagined receiving enlightening wisdom from the waves of the ocean. That single momentous incident on the beach gave birth to a series of comparative ideologies, and these perceptions have deeply influenced all my subsequent writings. So before I continue further, I would like to read out a page from the book when the incident on the beach occurred so that the viewers will comprehend the flow of the book.
Lovely. Look forward to.
Yeah. I walked slowly, enjoying the sensation of my feet sinking into the cool, moist sand. When the waves receded, I bent down to pick up some wet sand. My hand paused abruptly in midair as I was riveted by the beautifully patterned sand surrounding me. Intrigued, I spent a few moments examining the formation and subsequent destruction of these incredible delicate patterns by the incessant waves. I quickly discerned that these patterns depended on the rhythms of the oncoming waves. Each foamy wave would roll onto the shore in an inimitable style and create an exotic looking pattern. Sometimes these patterns were symmetrical or otherwise asymmetrical and quite haphazard. The erratic formation of these patterns puzzled me, and I spent the next few minutes pondering over their creation. Unable to attain appropriate answers, I mulled over the role of the frothy waves that were creating them. I looked out at the ocean and observed that each wave took birth, rolled onto the shore, and eventually got obliterated. As each wave dissipated, it would leave its quintessential hallmark of delicate patterns. These patterns usually stayed for a few seconds before they were destroyed by the next oncoming wave. As I was keenly observing the continual birth and death of the intricate patterns and the frothy waves, an erudite shloka from the Bhagavad Gita flowed into my mind. Lord Krishna elucidates, indeed, certain is death for the born and certain is birth for the dead. Therefore, over the inevitable, why do you grieve? My trail of thoughts unexpectedly derailed when I intuited the startling connection. It was a unique comparison between the profound shloka and the formation and destruction of the delicate patterns by the incessant waves of the ocean. My tumultuous thoughts floundered amidst a hive of mental restless activity, and I could neither recall when these unprecedented thoughts began nor what triggered the emergence of these extraordinary comparisons. Was it a transitory one in a million comparison that uncannily materialized in my mind?
So beautiful. This is so beautiful. And I think it kind of transports you into a different world altogether. You know, these are the kind of fascinating stories, Hema, which actually kept me completely glued to the book as I was reading the Oceanic Geeta. And it's all interspersed with real events, you know, your visit to the beach. You talk about your childhood, and there are some, you know, very interesting things that you recreate. You talk about how you visited Marina Beach or the beaches of Goa. We have that very special connect as well. So tell me a little bit more about these early influences in your life, which eventually brought you, you know, bringing this book to us.
Sure, thank you, Meenakshi. And I would like to start by saying that the major influence for this book was the Bhagavad Gita. And I started reading the Bhagavad Gita at the age of 19. It was an unusual experience. Again, something which I had never thought would happen. My dad's younger brother was visiting us. And after dinner, my brother and my uncle got into an endless discussion. And I have no idea how long it went on because I fell asleep. But I was very intrigued about what they were discussing. And the next morning, when I asked my brother, he said it was the Bhagavad Gita. So I was very curious to read it because, you know, if you can have a conversation for 5 or 6 hours, which is just endless and doesn't stop, it seemed a little, you know, unusual to me. But interestingly, when I began reading it, I would stop reading after the first 2 chapters. And I have no idea why it happened this way. So later, about maybe when I was around 21, I decided to read it and firmly resolved to complete it. And during this reading, which was the first time I ever read the Bhagavad Gita in totality, I recall reading the 6th chapter where Lord Krishna states, and I would like to just read out the shlokas from the book again. In the 6th chapter, Lord Krishna enunciates that his devotee will be born into a family or environment that is conducive for further spiritual growth. Lord Krishna declares, O Partha, neither in this world nor the next is there destruction for him. Verily, who strives to be good ever comes to grief. He is born in the family of wise yogis And a birth like this is very difficult to obtain in this world. There he comes to be united with the knowledge acquired in his former body and strives more than before for perfection. And by that very former practice, he is borne on in spite of himself. Even he who merely wishes to know yoga goes beyond the Sabda Brahma. So I was overwhelmed, and I still recall that feeling of awe and immense gratitude. It was like a great homecoming to the Supreme Father. And it also explained to me, these shlokas were very important in my life because they explained to me why I was able to effortlessly imbibe and comprehend the lofty philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita, whereas most people would read it and be very blank about what its connotations were.
Yeah.
This reading of the shlokas made me certain that I had studied it in past lives, and that encouraged me to simplify it and innovatively present it with comparisons to the waves of the ocean.
That's so beautiful. In fact,
Yes.
today you told us a little bit about the early influences, when you can hear a conversation and that inspires you to study deeper. But very earlier, when you were talking about the waves and you were reading out this passage about the patterns, these are very deep observations about the ocean. Because this book is called Oceanic Geeta, and there is the wisdom of the Gita, and there is this description of the sea. I'm very fascinated by the fact that you talked about the wave leaving a pattern on the sand, and how you were connecting the effect. And there is a whole lot of logic, there is art and there is science in your description when you say that you study the pattern of the sand, and the sand comes, erases the pattern, and then you speak about this undertow effect. Tell us something about it, because I'm sure your listeners and readers would love to know what inspired all of this.
Yes, definitely, Meenakshi. That's an interesting observation, and thank you. Uh, I have made many visits to the beach subsequently because a month after this incident, I met my husband for the first time and I got married. And from Bangalore, I shifted to Goa, almost as if I had to write this book and it was destined for me. And I have always experienced being mysteriously guided whenever I walked on the beach, as if there is some kind of higher power giving me the knowledge to comprehend whatever I was seeing. So when I saw symmetrical patterns, they revealed to me different facets of life, and I would keep pondering and cogitating over them. And I would compare them to a vast hidden world of karmic patterns and life struggles. And everyone in life has different struggles, so we cannot give very specific answers, but it's better to generalize. And as the reader reads, then they would kind of, imbue and apply whatever is, valid for them. And these intriguing experiences of seeing the patterns and the undertow effect compelled me to think out of the box. And I would like to speak a little bit about the undertow. And I would like to say that whoever has ventured and walked on the beach amidst the shallow waves has always experienced this undertow effect when the waves take the sand below your feet and around your feet, and it takes it back into the ocean. It's a very unsettling experience, and most of us always feel that we can topple. And I have seen many people also becoming unsteady and losing balance if we are not correctly positioned. So it can be a very unnerving experience of embarrassingly falling on the beach, and sometimes you hesitate to venture out again. This can make you feel so awkward, and it is comparable to any situation in our day-to-day life when we accost unknown experiences, and if they are unpleasant or even a little nasty, they can imbalance us. And sometimes life passes you by if you aren't clued in and you aren't aware of your surroundings and how you can relate. But for me, in retrospect, it was evident that I was introduced to my destiny when I intuitively perceived the waves of the ocean. And I
I loved,
respond.
I'm sorry to stop you midway,
Yes.
but I just loved what you said, that It gives you instability and some sort of awkwardness. But for those who understand, uh, they know that we require to stay calm, to have a sense of balance, and to reposition ourselves somewhat, right? So beautiful. The analogy is so beautiful.
Okay.
Uh, just to connect this again, the ocean, because the ocean is your metaphor, right?
Yeah.
You talk about connecting life to an ocean, and then you speak about attachments, aversions, likes and dislikes, again inspired by the Gita. Tell us a bit about how you connect this to the ocean.
So I would like to start by saying that we are all born with a beautiful garland of karmic debts around our neck, but it's a subtle garland that we are unaware of, but it weighs us down and we feel trapped. Our karmic patterns come from our past lives and they determine our basic nature and even our likes and dislikes. In fact, you'll be surprised to know that even your choice of tea or coffee or the food that you eat is dependent on your past karmic. So you will definitely receive very interesting insights when you read the book. But now I would just like to make it more interesting for the viewers and discuss how the ocean revealed to me the theory of karma. So if you stand at the seashore and count the waves, you can definitely do so. But there's no beginning or ending for this process. And the waves will continue rolling onto the shore timelessly, whether we are counting them or not. And so it is with our karma. We often feel a deep seated anger and frustration that we are being punished for some deeds that we are supposed to have committed in some previous lifetime. And it seems very, very illogical that we suffer now. But the harsh reality is that we are perceiving an extremely limited vision of our lifetimes. And I would say, even this current lifetime. So, Meenakshi, I would like to ask you, can you remember what you have done on the day when you were 25 years and 4 months old? Can you remember that?
Not
Or,
really.
or if I ask you, do you remember when you hurt your classmate in school or you mocked at your teacher in college?
I
Or
mean, I hope
if
I
you,
haven't, but I can't remember.
but the very fact is that if we've been rude to someone or shouted at a family member, or, can you take accountability for a fact which has occurred in your present life just a couple of years or decades ago, but you cannot recollect?
Yeah.
So think about it, and
Wow.
that will give you your answer.
Wow. I mean, Hema, for you to bring us such, ancient philosophy, such deep wisdom in something so relatable like the sea. And people who visit Goa, and you would know she talks a lot about Goa in the book. The Goa that you are looking at through the ocean has got so much depth, but so much wisdom to share. In fact, you are also touching on subjects like grief, sorrow, death, but you do it so beautifully. It is not something which is sad or dark or depressing. Instead, you are showing us how we can manage to balance with the calmness of the sea. Uh, Personally, this really touched me because I had gone through like a very personal tragedy, and I read your book and I found a lot of calm coming from it. Would you like to just comment on that, please?
Yeah, definitely. So I would like to say that, grief, emotion, these are all very personal topics, but we can find answers from the ocean because the sea also reveals diverse moods and emotions. And in a sense, we are helpless in the face of the mighty ocean. Like I would say, the waves come and go, irrespective of our wanting them to come or our ability. We cannot stop it. It is something which happens continually, timelessly. And this is what I would like to say about death, about grief and sorrow also. Irrespective of the fact, that we feel that we should be happy and we should always be contented, yet sorrow enters our life. And you can see it is the brief gap between the flowing in and the receding. The only thing I can say is that grief and sorrow are going to flow into your life, but they are also going to recede because they are not going to stay. Whatever comes into your life is going to flow away. And therefore, you have to look at it that, because they have come into your life, you will value happiness, you will value joy.
How wonderful,
And
Hema. How wonderful.
yes, and death, as I said, the waves come and go, and we are all born and we're all dead. We have no option. This world is such, it is transitory, it is illusionary. And this is a very, very, brief explanation because and I'm sure you must have found a lot of succor when you read through the book because I have discussed about it in depth.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. In fact, because of the relatability, that's what I want to say. When people talk about the Bhagavad Gita, we know there is so much wisdom packed into it. But most people would not be able to go through it because they feel it could be heavy, difficult to comprehend. I think the beauty of what you've done, Hema, which every reader will cherish, is that you have distilled it and you've packed it in a manner that is very easy for us to navigate. The lessons of the Gita, particularly, we know they are eternal, they're timeless, they're universal. They are much like the ocean, right? And they're cutting across all faiths. This is something I've noticed, that irrespective of what color, race, background, religion we come from, the lessons are timeless for each one of us. I can only say that I would like you to have the last word on why, for you, this book means a lot and what the reader will gain when they go through it. Over to you, Hema.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Meenakshi. And I found your insight very valuable about, it going beyond religion. And this is so relevant in today's times. So I would like to say that the vast, magnificent ocean is an aspect of God's miraculous creation. And it transcends all barriers of time, space, and of being constricted by narrow, limited thought processes of fanatical religions. So we have chosen names for the major oceans of the world to signify their position on the globe. We have the Pacific Ocean, the Indian Ocean. But if you cup ocean water in your palms, you cannot find any name inscribed on it. It will not have a name that, oh, I belong here and I belong there, because the ocean is beyond all man-made boundaries. It is beyond all names of belonging to a particular country or nation. The magnificent ocean may be flowing at their borders, but no country can harness and control the vast ocean. And similarly, the Oceanic Geeta explains that the teachings of the Holy Gita are not restricted to Hinduism. Its profound philosophies have stood the test of time for over millenniums, and it is revered by humanity and not only those belonging to the Hindu religion. So I would like to end by stating that spirituality is a gift for humanity, and it assists seekers by conferring wisdom and knowledge. Spirituality transcends all boundaries of space and religion and encourages humanity to think collectively as a whole. We have to walk hand in hand, each assisting the other, and collectively we have to ascend to the fifth dimension or higher. And I'm sure Meenakshi will agree with me when I say that we all experience thinking and feeling like collective when we accosted the pandemic in 2020 and 2021.
Absolutely, absolutely. I loved what you said, that spirituality is not something which is away from us. It's part of us, and it'll help us see through these difficult times that we are in, but that we are able to talk about it. And Hema, thank you so much for giving us not only, what you have understood and lived, but also this conversation, which I'm sure the listeners would enjoy. And I hope all of you will get a chance to read the book, to enjoy the Oceanic Geeta as we've done, and to use these lessons in your life. Thank you so much. Lovely to have you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Meenakshi.
Bye-bye.
It was a privilege
Thank you
to
so
be
much,
here.
ma'am. It was such
Thank
an
you.
enlightening session.
Thank you so much for giving us this platform. Thank you.